Let us all give a wonderful round of applause for the teacher, KRS-ONE.
Let's get right to the point. And I'm struggling with my voice because the more I use it, the better it gets. I screamed and yelled yesterday, and obviously my voice is a little raspy, but the more I use it, the better it gets. And I say that because the soul is the same way.
Peace and welcome to the Temple of Hip Hop. I am Son One, an apprentice committed to the Temple of Hip Hop. And this presentation is produced to give you some information regarding the Temple of Hip Hop, its function, and its history.
These missions that we do, this mission that we're on, has been happening for the last 30 years. What you're sitting in is a long-standing tradition with hip hop. And this is the purpose for what we call the Temple of Hip Hop. We started in 1996, really before that, but the term Temple of Hip Hop didn't come to us until 1996. Like I said before, for 30 years, hip hop has been meeting like this and discussing itself.
We're not looking to make $1 million, we're looking to have a presence where people know that there's a legitimate force out there that is ran by legitimate people about this culture. If you have questions about the culture and you want legitimate answers, not yo man, you know what I'm saying, but legitimate answers that you can go and print somewhere in a college journal about a culture, you need to come see the Temple of Hip Hop.
The Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop preservation society which functions as an authentic hip hop ministry. We preach the attainment of peace, love, unity, and safely having fun through the mastery of breaking, MCing, graffiti art, and DJing.
What's up? How y'all doing? Yeah, now look, if y'all ain't hyped yet, you will be hyped before you leave here tonight. Because tonight we're going to establish the authority of hip-hop culture.
The mission began with the launch of the Stop the Violence movement in 1989, and then with Human Education Against Lies, HEAL, in 1991. In 1994, KRS-ONE declared, "I am hip-hop," and began to inspire the global hip-hop community to see itself beyond music entertainment. During this time, KRS-ONE would unify the essence of the hip-hop community around the development of hip-hop as a global culture, and how such a culture could be preserved and passed on to future generations. Others at the time had brought up the idea of rappers forming a union capable of providing health care and legal defense for rappers and DJs. But it was KRS-ONE that introduced the idea of hip-hop being an international culture of peace and prosperity for all those practicing hip-hop's cultural elements.
But the theme of unifying hip-hop as a culture, unifying artists, and having them organized in a fashion where they can control their political power, control their economic power, their creative power, etc., etc.
It was KRS-ONE that put the K in hip-hop's culture and actually did the work to unify hip-hop into a global community beyond entertainment. But such ideas would be met with fierce opposition and sabotage. Prominent hip-hop pioneers, journalists, professors, and artists alike refused to accept the idea of hip-hop becoming a legitimate global culture. They argued for its continued existence as a music genre, hip-hop. When KRS-ONE first stated, "I am hip-hop," his critics thought that he was speaking only of himself, that he alone was hip-hop. But what our teacher was saying was that not only did he realize that he was hip-hop itself, but that anyone participating in hip-hop was also hip-hop itself.
But someone else would say, yes, I am hip-hop. Now the two of us are united. I'm hip-hop, this person's hip-hop. Class don't matter. Gender don't matter. Race don't matter. Religion don't matter. Hip-hop is above all of that. You can be whatever you want to be. All we want to know is, can you break? Can you MC? Can you DJ? Can you do rap? Can you beatbox? What is your culture? What is the content of your character?
Through his songs, books, and lectures, over a 30-year period, KRS-ONE taught the hip-hop community about itself and made it cool to be intelligent. This is why he is hip-hop's official teacher.
I want to verify something that you heard. Look in the back of this tag. You see in the back of, is that your tag?
Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, that's what the tag is pointing down to where the party's at.
The tag was pointing with a part.
That was the direction. Whoa, that's crazy. Yeah, you come this far, this is keep on coming down the step to the valley. Right. Down to the, you're going out to the water.
Right.
That was a trail down to the water. A major Deegan highway.
Down to the coast.
Turn the page. Matter of fact, my first girlfriend graduated. Just tried to play ball.
That's me and Kenny. 72.
You see the trail coming down?
Yeah, I
With
see
the inner steps there. All right. Okay.
Taking it back.
Now this park right here used to stay filthy. You see all this right here? Only time the kids, anybody know, anytime, that's it. Matter, this is it. When the park is clean, earth is coming down. I said, you want me to come out there and play? I gotta clean the park up. See, yeah. A lot of dirt to cover down here, man. It's not like that, man. Whoa. See, you was there. You couldn't come out. You was hearing madness.
I was hearing it.
You was hearing it. Oh shit! I live on the other side of the building here. Right. And this is the park right here.
We was
and
out our
this
window.
This is the daycare center. That daycare center's still there, man.
Oh,
This is where it belongs to our first party at for such a seat. But this is the block party.
I needed to verify the tag.
That's it.
Because only God would have positioned my mother like that.
Word up! That is crazy.
He had no idea what was going on.
When no one else was thinking about hip-hop as a teachable subject, KRS-ONE was out there lecturing at universities, performing at sold-out concerts, and writing books pertaining to hip-hop years before it became fashionable to do so. In 1994, after declaring "I am hip-hop" for the first time, KRS-ONE held a Meeting of the Minds conference at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture in Harlem, New York. Many pioneers were in attendance. This was the first time the question as to how to preserve hip-hop as a new global culture was properly asked.
With question number one being, what in our minds is the most important aspect to preserving the culture of hip-hop?
In 1997, the Temple of Hip Hop held its first hip-hop census, which asked thousands of hip-hoppers their definitions of hip-hop and where hip-hop should be going. In the same year, the Temple of Hip Hop held major public and private hip-hop cultural conferences all across the United States, seeking the proper definition, history, and purpose of hip-hop as an actual world culture.
Well, it started from myself. I was the first. Hip-hop to me right now is like it's on the course of a relay. I was the first guy who started off with the baton. You know, I started off like that, and the origin, West Indian background. I was born in the West Indies, from Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica.
Led by KRS-ONE, the Temple of Hip Hop continued to produce many of these kinds of meetings and lectures, ultimately establishing Hip Hop Appreciation Week every third week in May in 1998. and then going on to declare hip-hop a legitimate world culture of peace and prosperity May 16, 2001 at the United Nations headquarters in New York. This gathering at the delegates' dining room revealed the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace.
Wherever the elements, culture, and expressions of hip-hop and the term hip-hop manifests, this Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace shall govern its use and interpretation. Hip-hop respects the dignity and sanctity of life without discrimination or prejudice. Hip-hop culture demands that hip-hoppers work to eliminate poverty, speak out against injustices, and to shape a more caring society and a more peaceful world. Hip-hop does not participate in any form of hate at any time. Those who are not hip-hop are prohibited from explaining or interpreting hip-hop to others. Hip-hop respects the laws and agreements of its culture, its country, and those it does business with. Hip-hop is the name of our collective consciousness. As a conscious way of life, we recognize our influence on society, especially on children, and we forever shall keep the welfare of both in mind.
This groundbreaking document is the only legally established, NGO-recognized agreement in the world regarding the existence of hip-hop as a legitimate global culture of peace and prosperity. It was at this historic gathering of serious scholars, UN delegates, artists, hip-hop pioneers, and journalists that the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace was established by hip-hop for hip-hop, with the ceremonial acknowledgement of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. As KRS-ONE stated at the signing of the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace, quote, "Now that we exist, there will never not be a time where we shall not exist. Even if hip-hop stops tomorrow, it will always be remembered. Its influences shall remain entrenched in the very fabric of the societies in which it existed. Our existence as a temple for hip-hop brings balance to hip-hop in world history. Knowing that hip-hop is the name of our social group in world history, it becomes obvious then that no one is going to intentionally protect, promote, and preserve hip-hop for the sake of hip-hop. This we are going to have to do for ourselves, and this is what it means to be hip-hop," end quote.
Before we get to the elements, the artistic elements, before we get to the performances, you gotta ask yourself, what caused us to do that? Not the rapping, yo. What makes a person want to even do that? Well, what makes you even think that you can touch the turntable and manipulate it in such a way that it's now at the level of a guitar or a violin or a horn? You took an appliance, and because of your perception of the appliance changed, not you.
Membership with the Temple of Hip Hop begins with one securing a copy of the Gospel of Hip Hop for oneself. Entry into our society of attuned hip hoppers begins with the study of the Gospel of Hip Hop on one's own time at one's own pace. Those with a copy of the Gospel of Hip Hop are considered temple members. Everything about our temple, its meaning and purpose, its schedule and its mission is further explained there. Contentment and self-acceptance begins our ministry. The accurate documentation of hip-hop's existence in the world begins our archive. The teaching of an authentically hip-hop curriculum begins our school. And our unity around the overstandings of the gospel of hip-hop begins our society. Welcome to the Temple of Hip-Hop.
So in faith, we say, we know this is already done. We let it be. We are the people. And there it is. There it is. Thank you for the session.
Peace and much love, and welcome to the Temple of Hip Hop. I am Minister SIMONE, and here's our teacher, KRS-ONE. Your mic is off.
Yes, indeed. I am moving so fast right now. It's not even funny. I hope everybody can catch up.
That's right.
As you can see, I'm talking with my mic off, or was off. What a wonderful week this is. Well, at least for me. At least for me. So much is flowering up. We got a lot to read today, so I guess we will get right to the point. I do have some announcements, but yeah, no, this is no, I'm good. It's the same. It's the same announcements as well as of last week as well. And as we talk, some things will come to light as well. I don't feel like going through the little tidbits of the week. Every week we're laying something down crazy. So this was really a phenomenal week. Shout out to Grandmaster Flash. No doubt. Shout out to Grandmaster Flash coming up with stuff. Shout out to Diamond D, Stinkonia Studio, Stinkonia and Outcast and Goody Mob and the whole crew there in Atlanta. They received us well a couple of weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago. But the residuals of that work is now coming into fruition, and it's just something good to think about. So if you don't have any announcements yourself, I will get right into this study.
Well, I was just going to say that those who have responded to the UK tour, you should have received an email detailing a conference call that we're going to set up for this Wednesday to see who's really down. And again, or I'll put it back up. If anybody else is actually interested, at least in this beginning process, you can send an email to uktohh@gmail.com. But again, you don't send this if you have absolutely no intention on going. This isn't just a chance to watch in that sense. This is for those who are down to actually or do some hardcore work and get some experience with the Temple of Hip Hop, an extension of your apprenticeship with the Teacher KRS-ONE, and the experience of traveling abroad. It's going to be a wonderful thing. But that's it from me. This is someone. I'm out.
You know what? You may not want to go too far because you just brought up an interesting piece that I want to just piggyback on, which has to do with the tour and what is to be expected actually of the tour. And, let me just say this real quick that, in fact, you know what? I should have a copy of that with me. I'll get it later. The first time I announced the tour, even up to last week, announced the tour, the UK part of this tour, the idea, the dates were different, meaning that the schedule was slightly different. And I was talking about November 20th, releasing G. Simone's album. There was a date at the Electric Ballroom in London, and we had about 3 days off as well leading up to that. All of that has changed now, and for a variety of reasons. G. Simone, in terms of her album, we looked at the stars again, and lo and behold, Simone's birthday, January 21st, seems to be the best date to actually release this project. So That got moved over to January. The album is called Such a Feeling. Phenomenal album. You got to hear this. But that's now January. The schedule itself, the tour schedule itself has changed, and the Electric Ballroom London date has been moved down more toward the end of the month. And other dates have been put in, including some European dates, like Belgium and Amsterdam and Germany, like that. So a tour that started out as just the UK part of the tour, or just, because I was just going to go and do the UK and get that started as well. There's a whole thing with that as well. Why the UK? Why now? Why during this season? The type of dates that I'm doing as well. Why those dates? There's a whole method to the madness. But the point is, I'm just making this clear on this particular, putting it into history as well, and making it clear to everybody who's actually listening. No, this is not a vacation type tour. When I first announced it, there were pockets where vacation, you could come out and hang out kind of thing. That doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. And you may want to rethink whether you are coming, because now it has turned into a straight apprenticeship. And what do I mean by that? Meaning that I can always use the help. I have about 15, 20 dates that needs to get done. I can always use the help, but I pay for the help that I need, and that's the end of it. In an apprenticeship situation, people who you would normally pay, professionals who you're gonna get what you're gonna get because you're paying. In that normal situation, in a teacher to apprenticeship situation, the professionals go away and the students take the place of the professionals. What happens then is that the teacher should know, as I do, all of the professions that it takes to conduct a tour, to complete, from start to finish, what it takes to do a tour. So the apprentice rolling with the teacher on a tour like this, you get to learn firsthand how to conduct your own tours. And this knowledge is nowhere. It is not in college. It's nowhere. We're hoping to open our temple of hip hop at some point so that we can teach this knowledge. Hip hop has developed even its own brand of tour knowledge and what I call international survival. Hip hop has created its own network, where to go, where to eat, what to do, where to exchange money, who to talk to, these kinds of things. And when you're on a tour like this, you begin to learn that. You learn where to go, what to say, what to do. This, however, is costing the apprentice, though. This is costing the apprentice. It's really costing the whole tour, because the artist, in this case KRS-ONE, does not have the professionals that he usually surrounds himself with to get a certain thing done. Sound engineering professionals, security professionals, these people like that, professionals that know what they're doing, they're getting a salary, boom, here it is. In this instance, I'd be teaching these officers, teaching security, and a specific kind of security. How do you get an artist in and out of a building safely? And then everybody else as well. How do you walk in at sound check and find the exits, the entrances, what questions to ask? Well, if you're on a tour that you could do this every day, by the end of the tour, you're a tour manager and you got a credential. I was on tour with KRS-ONE and I was tour manager. I was road manager. I was sound engineer. I was security. I even got on stage and spit my rhyme. Here's a picture. All of that happens on a tour like this, but it's costly to the apprentice because now you have to get yourself there. And most likely you have to also sustain yourself while being there. So you have to pick, for some of us, I guess, we have to pick the week that we can afford to actually be there. Now, I did take a look at how the Temple of Hip Hop was going to roll, and it seems like we can only afford about 2 people ourselves that is to deal with the exhibit. Also the lectures. There's lectures that's happening out there. Some are mine, some are the Temple of Hip Hop's lectures that are also happening out there as well. There's a hustle going on as well. All of this is part of the apprenticeship. You learn how to get your bread while you out there as a hip hopper as well. All of this. So not to dwell on that. That's why I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but now I'm talking about it. But it's important to talk about so that we have a clear understanding as to what is to be expected. What is to be expected? This is now a volunteership, an apprenticeship. If you can afford to come out, of course, we have some subsidies, and when you come out, you know, like, okay, let me give you this example. Hotels. This is just an example, okay? So let's say you want to do the whole tour, the entire. Let's say you want to do the month of November, because the little bit of the tour is at the end of October, but that's the American wing of the tour. I'm ending up like 4 or 5 dates. It ends there in Boston, actually, and then we go over to Europe and this kind of thing. But here's the thing. Let's say you just want to do November. So let's just say November has 30 days, okay? So you have to have a hotel for every single one of those days, or you're sleeping in the street. So the average hotel in Europe, and not average, but the 4 and 5 star hotels are about $200 a night. So now you add that up, $200, 30 days, $200 a night. You're looking at about $6,000 for one person. For one person. You're looking at about $6,000 for one person to go at the $200 level. 4, 5-star hotels, et cetera, 6 G's for one person. But when you get on the ground, they have hotel, and not even get on the ground. If you nice with it, like a travel agent, nice with it, you get on your phone and hit Trivago and all these different places and so on, you could bring that $200 down to $100 because there are rooms there for $79. Hotels like Mercure and Ibis, those in Europe will know what I'm talking about, as well as those who have traveled as well. These are like the Holiday Inn, Comfort Inn, even La Quinta and Sleep Inn type hotels. But in Europe, you can get a $79 room. You can get an $89 room. Now, it's not like that all the time, but the few times that you can get an $89 room, a room under $100, that cuts that $6,000 down to $3,000. Now you only need $100 a day hotel to be somewhere. 3 G's now. Now you haven't eaten, and there's no car, gas, all of this type of stuff too that piles on top. So this is where the apprenticeship comes in that sense. Now, some of you, let me just pause here. Some of you may say, you know what? I'm just going to come in for a certain show date and lecture, maybe. Say show date and lecture, take that in and fly home. Fly in, you'll be here maybe 3 days, or there in London, or wherever, somewhere in England, 3 days. Take in 3 days, because Liverpool looks live as well. As I look at the new schedule, Liverpool looks a little live as well. But you know, you could fly into Liverpool. We could do the Slavery Museum, have dinner, take in a lecture, and then the show. And then you fly back out. And we've all celebrated Hip Hop History Month, because I'm still looking for venue and where to celebrate Hip Hop History Month in England, because that's where I'm going to be throughout November. So we're going to strike up a lecture, have do our thing. So those that are coming out, you could just do that You know, when we announce it, it's here, it's for these couple of days, here's what's going down, this is what it is. And that'll happen in about 2 weeks. We'll know for certain where we are. You can just fly out for that, take that in, that's on your expense in that way, and you just do that. But those that want to volunteer and be an apprentice for the Temple of Hip Hop are learning the rest of your lesson. This is another portion of the lesson where every teacher of hip hop has to be on a tour, has to have had toured. And I mean real tour, grueling tour, not invited on the tour and you know, basically taken care of. No, you're the one taking care of the tour. And really getting your hands, feet wet, you know, whatever the saying is, you know, rolling up your sleeves and getting hands dirty. That's what the apprenticeship is about. So we can only really afford as a temple about 2 people, and I'm not sure that is for the whole tour. Even we got about 3 weeks in us. Now, in this type of instance, and I'm not doing this, but in this instance, this is where we would take up a collection from the Temple of Hip Hop for our 2 candidates to go and learn, but also what they're going to do is the foundation of their work is the exhibit, is the setting up and breaking down of the Temple of Hip Hop's traveling exhibit. Teaching people what the temple is about, what the 50 years of hip hop is getting ready to be about, drawing attention to 1520 Sedgwick Avenue and what's going on there, those who are taking in membership as well. All of this type of stuff is going to be at our table, at our Temple of Hip Hop table. 2 people got to be there to make sure that runs correctly. Now, normally we would take up a collection from the temple, our congregation Temple of Hip Hop, for these 2 candidates to actually go and do that work. We're not there yet. We're still booking the tour. We're still figuring our budgets out and still trying to get ourselves together. And those that want to take this apprenticeship, you should consider to yourself, you're gonna need some money. You're gonna need some money. Take a loan, borrow something legal, of course. But somebody's going to have to support you, and don't be you know, afraid of the number. The number may be 5 G's actually, and that's a low number to be in another country for a month. But you're on a tour, so you know you're gonna eat, you're gonna, you know, be around, you know, you're gonna travel, you're gonna get in a van, you know, you're going to get to where you got to go because you're on the tour. And that's what it is. But to be on the tour at this level as an apprentice of the tour, you got to have your money ready. You got to have your money ready. So that's really what that is. Now, a few of you have already sent in your requests to do this. And so we, like someone just mentioned, we have a call, a Zoom chat conference call, special private call for those that are going to go to the UK and assist the teacher, KRS, in the production of hip hop, and from everything, the concert, the exhibit. You'll be called to teach as well. You'll be called to perform if you have that skill. You'll be called on all levels, all 9 elements. You'll be called on in that sense. It's something you probably, for those that never had this kind of experience, it's something you don't want to miss, really. And you may want to really consider taking this seriously. It is an opportunity of a lifetime. Okay, so having said that, let's move on, because the teaching of hip hop is becoming a huge industry. And I hope you guys are realizing what you're getting right now. Right now, we're doing this for free. Whoa. Shout out to those who pay their membership dues as well, supporting the Temple of Hip Hop on that level as well. Thank you. But you know, we come here for free every Sunday around 12 o'clock. This is how we do it. And we try to record these as well so that you can go back, those that want to just join in, go back and catch other lessons that you may have missed. This is for our heritage. This is for our posterity. This is in honor of our ancestors. And this is for us right now. Those that can get this lesson, the whole thing, our reading of the gospel of hip hop, those that can get this now, you're going to live a great life. You're going to live a great, or if not already, you could look at the character of the gospel of hip hop and see the empowerment in it. I often say, and I don't like to say it, but I have to say it, is that whatever you are learning, whatever knowledge it is that you are learning, you have to see it on your teacher. You have to see it in real life. You can't learn something that's abstract, especially when dealing with life. Things like culture, lineage, lifestyle, heritage, these words. You can't play games with that. You got to really be studying a knowledge that works when you understand it and apply it. This really works. So what we're looking at here is the teaching of hip hop is becoming a huge profession. Everyone who has participated in hip hop, you know, in some pioneering way, I can't even say that. I should just say everybody who is participating in hip hop has the right to teach it. Now, I added that pioneering part because, right, what are you teaching? You know, if you wasn't there, if you was not ordained, if you don't have the authority, the skill, the talent, the knowledge, you know, what have you read or what have you seen, you know, that kind of thing. That's why I say pioneering, you know, those who have pioneered, this is becoming a huge teaching. This is becoming a huge industry, the teaching of hip hop. And I want to emphasize that because that's what this is all about. That's what our reading is all about. We're producing hip hop's teachers. We're producing hip hop's next generation of teachers. And of course, like I said, there's a bunch of people out here teaching, all types of universities teaching. And there's a criticism with that too, on a slide on another level, just not here. I don't need to go into all of that here. But this idea of the universities colonizing hip hop, the intellectual side of it, that's whack on another level. But the idea that someone wants to teach hip hop in and of itself helps our culture, legitimizes our culture, makes no excuse then why you don't understand our culture. We are a legitimate part of the globe's academic understanding of knowledge. We are a part of the globe's knowledge. And so, okay, there's that, you know, for the museums and the universities and blah, 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 and all of that. But if your knowledge is not effective and useful, it's just a game then. It's vanity for the teacher, or it's a scam by the institution. The Temple of Hip Hop distinguishes itself by offering empowering hip hop knowledge, authentic hip hop knowledge, authoritative hip hop knowledge. Now, others can claim whatever they claim. But in real life, when we start talking about facts with evidence and proof and precedence, history behind it, things that the whole culture knows, things that the subject itself cannot be discussed without these people, things, places, dates, times, without this, that when it comes to that, okay, the Temple of Hip Hop distinguishes itself as one of the higher learning institutions. I'm not bragging whatsoever. I'm telling you what it is. And I'm putting it in history so that you understand where you are. I am hip hop's first master teacher, period. The first one to call me master teacher was Africa Bambaataa and Zulu Nation itself, and a whole ceremony. They gave me a big plaque and all of this. Those are the first people. Then, of course, Hurt, Cindy, Grandmaster Flash, Theodore. This became my nickname now, Master Teacher. Over the years, over the time of teaching, showing hip hop certain things, etc., it's now common knowledge. So I say this to say who you're learning from is also just as important as what you're learning. You're learning from hip hop's first master teacher. And the first part is not vanity or bragging or boasting like some do. The first part is not that I'm the first. No, that's not the point. The point is first, meaning primitive or prime in that context, adds an authenticity to this particular teaching. See, we don't need to get our authority to teach hip hop from other hip hoppers, meaning that to teach hip hop, other institutions, to teach hip hop, other institutions have to quote Cool DJ Herc, Africa Bambaataa, Flash, Dougie Fresh, and the like, Russell Simmons, Def Jam, Run DMC, and that whole clique, and then it goes on, and on. But the Temple of Hip Hop does not have to do that. Now we do it because we honor our brothers and sisters. We honor our culture. What's the acronym for honor our people? That's the hop of it. Heritage is power. Honoring our people. That's what it is. Hip hop. Heritage is power. Honoring our people. I heard that fall out of Simone's mouth one day, and it just stuck with me. Like that. Heritage is power. Honoring our people. We do that here at the Temple of Hip Hop. So we do discuss the lineage that we know to exist, but we don't have to. You see, these other institutions have to discuss for their own cultural credibility. They have to discuss Kool Herc and the lineage that comes from there. But the Temple of Hip Hop does not. Why? Because first, your founder and teacher was also there, physically at the spot, in the year that in the month that Kool DJ Herc is said to have begun hip hop. This is called providence. None of us knew, nothing. Nobody could say they knew it was going to be. Nope. Life itself, the circumstances of life itself placed me right there in the same year that Kool Herc is getting his merry-go-round thing together, did his show, his DJing at 1520, the community center, and then came outside the 1600 where my baby pictures or my young man pictures are there. We're sitting in the same park in 1973, me and my brother Kenny, we just there like this. So out of all institutions, and we say this humbly because it puts a responsibility on us, the Temple of Hip Hop does not derive its power and authority from other hip hoppers, although we honor and respect them dearly. But when you look at the reality of life itself, the facts of life itself, your founder and teacher was already there. And not only was he also already there, but even though I was there, I could have became a doctor, a lawyer, a school teacher, a high school teacher. I could have opened a business and did something else with my life. I could have left the country and formed a whole new life in another place. None of that happened. What happened was the very birthplace of hip hop where I'm at, growing up, playing in the same park. Some 20 years later, I would become a rapper and MC at the time, DJ, graffiti writer, b-boy. Huh? I can't say I knew that was going to happen. It just happened like that. So now this guy who was there in 73 becomes this knowledge reign supreme guy and has it within himself to say, no, you know what? This is more than a music genre. This is a global culture. This is our community. if you study anything about civilization, anything about the birth of civilizations, about the formation of culture, how societies come together, you know that hip hop in all of its manifestations is way more than a music genre. But some didn't know. Of course, we were ahead of our time. Most of the philosophers of a culture are. And so we went about the teaching of this to our culture. As you just saw in the last clip, it's a quick synopsis of some of the work we've done to establish hip hop as culture. So know where you are is the point, the first part of this. Know where you are. Nobody's bragging, nobody's putting nobody on top of nothing, but know where you are. Our temple is that sacred space in hip hop. We're not gossiping here. We're not putting each other down here. Well, we're putting each other down with the realness. We're putting each other down with the goodness. No, we're not slandering each other's names and disrespecting elders and ancestors and pioneers. We're not doing that. No, we're honoring our brothers and sisters. We're honoring our heritage. This is that sacred space where mercy exists, where forgiveness exists, where clear thinking exists. There has to be a place within a culture, within a society that is respected and strong. And the whole society knows what the deal is with this particular space. And our hip hop community does know what the deal is with our particular temple of hip hop space within the community. They know what we about. You can see it here, and we have a long history. So know where you are. Know where you are. Know who you are. You are a hip hop teacher being taught by hip hop's first master teacher. First of all, hip hop's first teacher. The title is master teacher because that's what I was called by the pioneers, the founders and forefathers and mothers and so on, okay? But Grandmaster Caz is a first teacher. You know, Kool Herc, Bam, Flash, these are all first teachers. Hip hop's true first teachers, but they never called themselves teacher. They never went about it like that. But the ones who influenced us are our first teachers. And so here I come, codifying and putting stuff together and telling people, way back in the days when hip hop began with Coke, Rock, Kool Herc, and then Bam, Beat Boys ran to the latest jam. When it got shot up, they went home and said, damn, there's got to be a better way to hear our music every day. B-boys getting blown away, but coming outside anyway. They tried again outside and where? Cedar Park. Power from a street light made the place dark. But yo, they didn't care. They turned it out. I know a few understand what I'm talking about. Only a few understand what I'm talking about. Remember, Bronx River, rolling thick with cool DJ Red Alert and Chuck Chill out on the mix when Africa Islam was rocking the jams. On the other side of town was a kid named Flash, Grandmaster Flash, Patterson and Millbrook Projects. You could just stop right there. Casanova's all over. Casanova's where Caz gets his name from. Casanova's all over. And actually, Caz said, when we got deep into it, he said he didn't really get his name from the Casanovas, but he did, but he didn't, but he did. Those that was at the 1520 lecture with Caz, you can recall that. Casanova's all over. You couldn't stop it. The Nine Lives crew, the Cypress Boys, the Real Rock Steady, taking out these toys. As odd as it looked, as wild as it seemed. And see, this is the point. This is the point right here, is that when you do the work, your knowledge of the work that you're doing becomes empowering to the one getting it. So I say with distinction, know where you are and know who you are. The knowledge that we're putting forward here is empowering to know, and it actually works. This is empowering to the hip hop life, and it actually works. It actually works. Now, looking at this, looking just over my notes, shout out to Debbie D from the Us Girls. Had a nice conversation with Debbie D, who calls herself a flyerologist because she deals with these flyers and got this vast knowledge of flyers and can talk about hip hop through the evidence of the flyers. Her presentation is brilliant. Debbie D, flyerologist, she's not the only one. I've seen AD do this as well from the Cold Crush, but Debbie D has a specific way in which she goes about it. But Pebbly Pooh, Debbie D, Sha Rock, and Lisa Lee are considered the foremothers of hip hop. They're uniting to throw that title around within hip hop, the foremothers of hip hop. Pebbly Pooh, Debbie D, Sha Rock, and Lisa Lee. We would throw Cindy in there as well as the foremothers of hip hop, and they all would concur as well. Cindy knows all of them, and so on. So shout out to Debbie D as well. She was also, she claims, the first female MC in the Juice Crew. Before Roxanne Shante, it was Debbie D. If you want to see Debbie D, go to Beach Street. She's in the movie Beach Street as the Us Girls. And she comes in and says, "Us girls can boogie too. We can make it. We can do that." Something like that. And she jumps out. I'm MC Debbie D, and I here to say. And you can see that was her. She's in the legendary movie Beach Street. But Debbie D, I called her because of the scholarship that I'm putting together for the 1520 Sedgwick Avenue Hip Hop 50 Years exhibit that we're doing there. I'm talking straight to scholars, people who know the history was there. And again, we have to go over the history again. I know a vast degree of history, but again, it's 50 years. You got to do the work. Let's go back and ask the same dumb questions again and see if everybody's story is the same. Stories are changing. People are embellishing. People are lying. People are also discovering new stuff and have to change stuff. All of it's legitimate, even the lies. It's all legitimate. To uncover the lies, it's all legitimate. It's part of the study. So that's what we're doing. My latest part of that was I called Debbie D to just hear a little bit from her about some of the early days as well and why things were the way they were and so on and so on. And we got to this. So now we want to talk about our read today. Our read today. And the read, really, this read we're actually dealing with today kind of talks a little bit about what this week's controversy. I'm not really going to get into it with the statements made by DJ Academics, and that. But our gospel, the read, kind of speaks to this week's controversy within hip hop. LL Cool J had to weigh in. Others had to weigh in as well on the statement that this gentleman made. And it was interesting because it sparked big debate within the hip hop community, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. I don't get involved in these kinds of things personally because it's borderline gossip. Again, you know why everything is the way it is. Why we gonna sit here and act like we don't know nothing? And why the pioneers like that? And why this like this? I ain't got time for that. We all know the truth. We know what it is. You know what I'm saying? And only now, I think for younger people, I think the conversation is great for younger people to have amongst themselves about how do you approach your ancestors? How do you approach your pioneers? How do you approach those who have come before you? That's a young man and young woman's conversation. Elders talking about this and going through it. It's just a conversation. For me, it doesn't lead to anything. It doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere because we know what the problem is. Nobody wants to fix it. That's the point. So if we're not willing to fix the problem, what are we talking about? So here we are. But our read goes into a little bit of this conduct and of this character. Now, what I want to do is take you back to page 658. That's where we stopped before, page 658. Okay, you get it? Page 658 is where we are. Is that all right? Yeah, sorry about that. Just something that fell over here. 658. Okay, 658. Now, that's what we're going to start to read today. But what I want to do, hold on. What I want to do is what I didn't do last week was section off the lessons. Usually, you know this when we're studying this, we section off the lessons so you know how to teach the gospel of hip hop. So go back to 643, page 643. Go to 643, the 17th overstanding the temple of hip hop. It's the first page of this overstanding. Okay. Okay. 643. If you're there. Okay. Lesson 1. This is what you put at the first paragraph of the 17th overstanding. You write lesson 1, origin of the temple. Lesson 1, origin of the temple. That lesson goes all the way to page 646. That lesson goes all the way to page 646, and lesson 2 begins at paragraph 12. Okay, paragraph 12 from 1 to 11 is lesson 1. Now, lesson 2, which is the meaning of the temple. The meaning of the temple. Lesson 2, the meaning of the temple, starts at paragraph 12. And you'll see we highlight a lot of that. From 12 to 22 is highlight, but you keep going. You keep going to page 654. That's page 654, paragraph 45. 654, paragraph 45. Now, just before we get to 45, the sentence just before that is the end of, I'm going to get complicated, the end of paragraph 44. The end of paragraph 44, it says, this is why we use the term our people, meaning those who are ready to hear the truth. Underline that. This is why we use the term our people, meaning those who are ready to hear the truth. And then at paragraph 45, it's lesson 3, the character of our people. So you'll notice when we say our people, we're not talking racially, unless it's specific. There's a piece we're getting ready to come up to that specifically talks racially about African Americans. But when we're talking in terms of hip hop and we say our people, this is outside of race, class, religion, so on. We're talking about those ready to hear the truth within our culture. That's our people. We're one of those people who want to hear the truth. So lesson 3 is the character of our people, and it begins that lesson on paragraph 45. Paragraph 45. Now that goes all the way to today, which is lesson 4, starting at paragraph 61. We are starting today at paragraph 61. This is lesson 4, the degradation. It's called the degradation of our people. The degradation of our people, which is why I say some of this alludes to some of the discussion that's going on this week regarding the remarks made this week. Let me hit you with this. Like the 10 Commandments, I'm going back to paragraph 59 page 657, paragraph 59. I'm just reading it so we can catch up to this lesson. Like the 10 Commandments, for example. And this was also highlighted. We highlight the 10 Commandments within the gospel of hip hop. So 59 was also highlighted. You should have already highlighted that. Like the 10 Commandments, for example, which originated in Africa. And see, this is what African Americans got to really pay attention to. And this is what I'm starting with. This is what our lesson is really beginning with right here. The 10 Commandments originated in Africa. These are our principles, speaking racially here, and even culturally, because not all Africans were with this either. But those that were, those that had the character. What was the character? First, thou shalt not have no other gods before me. This is interesting, and I didn't say this last week. That's why I'm going over this right now. This is interesting, have no other gods before me, because our ancient ancestors knew that the gods were our ancestors. Your mother and father, your great-grandmother and father, your great-great-great-great-great, your ancestors were the only gods there were. And even as we get further into God within us, if you look at this, have no other gods before me, what's really being said is put no other gods in front of oneself. If God is within oneself, you should put no other gods in front of one's divine self. On another level, you can interpret this as saying, put no gods in front of your ancestors. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. I am your ancestor. Don't put nothing in front or make that more important than your own lineage, your own heritage, your own bloodline, your own ancestors. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. Translation: those trying to make hip-hop physical objects. Those that worship the physical object of hip-hop as opposed to hip-hop itself. Making engraven images. You're trying to say that this hat is hip-hop. You're trying to say this jacket is hip-hop. This material item is hip-hop. That's the deeper part of this make engraven images. You have to think to yourself, the people who are writing this are artists. Artists of potters, weavers, painters. Now you can say, sure, they put a certain thing on themselves, a certain principle, and say, we're not going to draw God, though. And we're not going to draw the spirit like that. You can say they said that. You can deduce that that was the point for them as well. But if they are artists and they're saying we shouldn't be drawing anything like God or anything in heaven or the earth beneath and all this the water, we shouldn't be doing all of that. These things should be remain sacred. Applying that to our culture, they're saying the intangibles should remain intangible. We should not draw principles. We should understand them, you know, like for many centuries, the Buddha, for instance, was represented by a leaf or by footprints. You know, you have other symbols of certain principles and or people, but you never explicitly or photographically try to emulate or produce a picture of a principle. This is what they were trying to avoid in ancient times. Apply that today. Hip hop is a principle. It never enters the physical world. It's a shared idea. The only time hip hop becomes real and physical is when we become it. Hip hop is like love, you know, or wisdom, or trust, or charity. We know these things exist, but there's no physical object to them. They are activities and or understandings. So to not make any graven image, apply it now here. And another reason why the Temple of Hip Hop says, or one of our principles is, we believe that to preserve hip hop, you preserve the hip hopper. You preserve the idea of hip hop. Now we could get to this one's hat and that one's jacket and this one's turntable. We can get to that. In fact, from a teaching point of view, we like to have the photos of that. But the actual object itself, the worship of the object, the value, placing value on the object itself, that goes here with this graven image. Even a little bit of putting a God in front of yourself, something you're putting more value on the object than on the maker of the object. Thou shalt not take the name of thy Lord God in vain. The name of hip hop. How often do we take that name in vain? We probably don't. I'm speaking from a community point of view. Just talking about hip hop in any old way. Like it is not something sacred. Like it is not something that belongs to you. Like it is not something under your care. People are doing it all the time. And what I'm pointing out is the character. This is an ancient character. I'm only modernizing it to our time. This is an ancient character. That's why it's in the Bible. Bible ain't nothing but a history book. That's why they put it in there. Remember this little bit of character, a little bit. Here's the real big part. Okay, here it goes. It starts right here. The Lord thy God name in vain. Okay, talking about hip hop in any old stupid way, right? Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. That's hip hop history. Hip hop. I was gonna say hip hop history month, right? That's hip hop appreciation week. That's hip hop recognition month. Hip hop celebration day. These are sacred to our culture. To let these months and weeks and days just go by destroys the integrity of your culture. There's no tradition. No one is performing the ritual of the culture. That's why these holy days are important. I think it's reflected in the ninth overstanding of the Declaration of Peace. We acknowledge our holy days. Honor thy mother and thy father, that thy days may be long upon the land. upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth. That's what's been violated this week. That's what honor doesn't say anything about give any money to. Doesn't say anything about cry over. Doesn't say question even. It says honor thy mother and thy father. Honor thy mother and thy father, that thy days, that your days, okay, might be long upon the land which the Lord thy God give you, that God giveth. Honor your mother and father, that your days may be long. Well, so the opposite of that is disrespect your ancestors and shorten your days on the earth, which God gives. It's like we're not grateful for hip hop. We are, but I say we as a community outside of our temple of hip hop, that's where all this rhetoric is coming from. Ungratefulness. The statement is ungrateful, but then look at where the statement is going. Why are our pioneers, some of them, in poverty? Why, though? If you keep creating institutions that use them and never pay them, you make museums and all types of stuff and never pay them, never give them nothing, no money ever, then turn around and say, well, why you like that? This is the ungratefulness, and ungrateful on several levels. Hip hop's pioneers themselves got some waking up to do. It's only now, we coming up on the 50th anniversary of hip hop. In the last 5 years, maybe, pioneers have been saying, "Oh, I'm MC so and so. I'm the," and now claiming. And I say that respectfully because they're coming into consciousness. As you get older, you start realizing, yeah, wait a minute. I did do that. I did do this. I did contribute this. You start realizing it. And now you start claiming, yo, wait, my contribution is valuable to this valuable thing. But if we're not willing to honor thy mother and thy father, the mother and father of your culture, the mother and father of your profession, the mother and father of your industry, you're not willing to honor the mother and father in your life, the mothers and fathers in your life. People only relegate mother and father to your biological mother and father. No, this is a spiritual document. All the mothers and fathers of your life, your industry, your craft, the ones who gave you knowledge, those, honoring them, keep your days long on the earth. But of course, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against that. That's a fourth. That's just a four-man right there. Can we stop killing each other, cheating on each other, stealing from each other, and lying to each other? Because the opposite is the destruction of culture, society, and civilization. And this is what we are. We're killing, adultering, cheating on each other, and also bragging about it. This is the other piece. Bragging about it. You know, okay, and then stealing and bragging about it. Now, thou shalt not be bear false witness against thy neighbor, lying on people. And bear false witness is not just lying, it's also slander. And if you want to get real intricate with it, it's misrepresentation, like gossip. it's like a misrepresentation. You don't have the whole story, but you running around talking. You're bearing false witness. You don't have the whole story. You're not lying, but you heard something and now you want to push it on and don't even know. Don't even have the other side of the story. Nothing. You just pushing what it is you heard and yee. Bearing false witness. See, these little pieces here is where you have to stop for a minute and check yourself before you wreck yourself. Chickadee, check yourself before you riggedy wreck yourself. DOS effects. And then Ice Cube. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Socrates, I think it was, it said, the unexamined life is not worth living at all. That's all this is. This is not criticism. This is not judgment. We don't do that here. We learn here. And learning is painful. It is. You got to make mistakes. You got to see the error. You got to point it out. You got to correct it. Now you're right. Don't just stop with the pain. Don't just stop with the embarrassment of being wrong. Don't just stop with the ego of not wanting to be corrected. Don't stop in those places. Get corrected. See the wrong, correct it. Don't stop there. See, oh, that was whack. Let me correct that. And move from the correction. That's what learning is all about. That's what learning is all about. Now, of course, I could stop here. You know, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thy neighbor's shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. These are our principles. Now, the reason I read it like this, because these are also, this is kindergarten. And if you can't adjust yourself to these simple principles, which is why they're in the gospel of hip hop, these are simple principles. You have to kill, you have to steal, you have to lie, you have to envy other people's stuff. You have to, like, this is what it is. And it's like, believe it or not, you know, 2,000, more than that, probably 4,000 years ago, this thing, 10 Commandments, no, their community couldn't deal with it, right? Because that's what they had to, somebody had to come and tell you this. And here we are today, right now. Somebody got to come and tell us this. To love one another, to respect one another, to heal and feed one another. We got to be told that because we just want to rob and steal from one another, kill one another, slander each other's names, and hold each other back. That's what we want to do as a community, right? Where you can see where the stupidity is, and you can see where the shining light of intelligence is. You can see where the immaturity is, and you can see where the maturity is. The choice then is yours. You ain't got to listen to somebody's podcast to know what stupidity is. You ain't got to read a book to know what maturity and immaturity is. It's certain things are right there in front of your face. And if you can't respond to the truth, that's what makes you immature. That's what brings the immaturity. You can't respond to the truth. You have no response ability to the truth. You have no ability to respond to the truth when it's right in front of your face. As teachers of hip hop, we have to respond to the truth. Everyone else can play games with it, but we're teaching our people how to be a community, how to be a society. What is the meaning of culture? What is the meaning of civilization? We're teaching our people that. Others could talk about civilization, talk about culture, talk about heritage or generational wealth and all this. That's a good talk. But who's really going to adjust their character to match that? Very few. Us on this call doing it, though, and that's why our gospel is open today on a Sunday, and I thank you for being here. You know, the gospel, you know, the Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop preservation ministry, archive, school, and society. We started in 1996, believing that to preserve hip hop, we have to preserve the hip hopper. We believe that we are not just doing hip hop, we are hip hop. That rap is something we do, while hip hop is something we live. Now, why do I say it like that in that sarcastic way? Because I've been saying that for 30 years. And just like people come and they say to me, do you think the Stop the Violence movement needs to come back out? Based on the killing of rappers are dying and being shot and gun violence, and I chuckle and laugh all the time because why? They don't get you don't understand what the Stop the Violence movement message was. Revolution only works for those that participate in it. The word has to be out. Okay, God forgives fools and children. Okay, God forgives those who don't know. I didn't know, so I acted stupid. I didn't know, so protect me from this harm. But once the prophet, the teacher, the sage, your philosopher of a culture comes out and says, yo, stop the violence. And here's a couple of scenarios as to how we get caught up into violence. Let's stop this, y'all. Now, those that stopped it and realized they're the ones running whole cities right now, corporations and companies, and it's no bullshit. They're the ones that made it. Those that said, man, what they trying to do? What they trying to say? Most of them were in prison respectfully. Most of them, tripped in life. They in places they don't want to be, working, doing jobs they don't want to do. And a lot of these people, by the way, are our founders. Pioneers, I say it respectfully. But this is the truth. A lot of what's going on is because when the teacher speaks and is saying something true and real, if you disregard what is true and real, what do you get? You get fake and not real. You get lies, you get deceit and fake. And that's what happened to a lot of our people, pioneers included. We could have went so much further. But the immaturity of even our own selves, that's what happened. We a young culture, and we learning how to be the culture with our very lives. With our very lives, we learning it, how to be the culture. So again, there's no criticism or judgment here, but you got to know the math. You can't walk around like, why hip hop like this? Why it never went this way? Why we got, no. My mouth is big, loud, as with others that were teaching and trying to show, no, we should be going this way. We got laughed at. We was told preaching, you know the story. Now we all looking, wondering, why? No, why was in the 90s. That's when you were supposed to why? Not now. 20 years later, no, we were supposed to plant them seeds back in the 90s. But guess what? The Temple of Hip Hop planted those seeds in the 90s, which is why we are where we are today. And I'm not saying bragging like we someplace, but I tell you the truth, I'm proud of my temple, straight up. The work that we did over 30 years and who we are today, now I'm proud of the temple that I belong to, straight up and down. No bragging, no boasting, just the work. Just the work. No bragging, no boasting, just the work. And when you look at the work, we sit back and go, told you so. We sit back and go, didn't we write that somewhere over here a couple of years ago? Didn't we say all of this? So there's no shock for the temple member. There's no shock for the Templars, for the true teachers of hip hop. We just dealing with cause and effect. We know you do this dumb shit over here, you're going to get dumb shit over here. You do this dope shit over here, you're going to get that dope shit over here. That's it. Why do you have to keep hearing that? Why do you have to keep being told and what? You don't know that? Well, that's the immaturity. And that's what we're trying to raise our culture out of. It's state of immaturity. because that's all we dealing with is immaturity. We got to mature, and that's a level of knowledge, awareness, skill. That's why you here, because you're a hip-hop teacher, and you're the authentic hip-hop teacher. Your character matches the character that you teach. Your character matches the empowerment that you're giving to others. So we went over the 10 Commandments. I want to bring you now down to our read today. And of course, you know we're going slow, so take it in. I'm in paragraph 61. It is now time to grow up. Hip-hop not only reminds us of our divinity, hip-hop also reminds us of our immaturity. We can look at hip-hop, its birth, its contributions to society, its social setup, its arts, etc., and see how we have treated our own legacy and heritage today. The same way we treat hip-hop today is the same way our parents have treated themselves in the past, and this is what has led to our own enslavement every time. Let's highlight 62 and 63. Not 61, I said 62 and 63. Here's why. Look at how we exploit ourselves today. Look at how we seek to manipulate and disrespect each other today. Look at how some of us can sell destructive drugs and weapons to others of us, bringing down our whole communities, bringing down our own communities. Look at how we sell illegal drugs, guns, and sex right on the same streets named after our king, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is us. And this is how we treat our own heritage and legacy. We have simply forgotten who we are and where we have come from. And most of us don't even care to know. That's the 90s. Right here, at the beginning of the new millennium. I take it all the way up to 2010 almost, 2011, 2015 even. That's how people thinking, just like this. And it's all recorded. It's all recorded. Go back. Look at the Source magazine who documented the whole 90s of hip hop. Go back, look at Double XL, look at Vibe magazine, look at what they had on the covers, look at the subject matters. And I'm not criticizing, I'm saying to be able for you to make an informed, intellectual analysis of the times, go back and get the Source, Double XL, and Vibe magazine from as far back as you can. Their first issues all the way up until these magazines stop printing or whatever. And look at what was important to the hip hop community. Look at the ratio of it. 70% this, 25% that. 90% this, 10% that. 50-50 with this. Take a look at it if you can. We have hundreds of Source magazines that we've collected over the years. And that's why I can speak like this, because I went through there and looked through. And it's funny sometimes, you know, the person, you open up a Source and it's like somebody has 2 spread page. They the hotness. This is the hotness. You don't even remember who that person is today. I look back on that. Someone you do remember who they are. Someone like Master P, when he first came out with those, he had a distinct art, graphics that crushed it. I think Master P's graphics when he first came out, and the whole No Limit Soldiers and all of that, crazy, okay? That was dope. You go back, you look at that. You go back. It wasn't about the music. Of course it was. All of that, and that was a whole other. Big up to Master P. That's one of the dopest artists out there, Master, and everybody that came with him too. He came with a crew as well. Big up to Master P. I'm emphasizing his graphics. When you go back to the magazine and look at the graphics, you can see why certain people made it and why others didn't. You could see the competitive edge and how Master P came in from the South and from a time where the South wasn't getting the respect either from East or West Coast. South had to fight their way in with banging music and tours and shows and, you know, this kind of thing. And finally, everybody had to come and kiss the ring. That's what it was. But when it was first starting, you get to see all of that. And as scholars, that's what we got to be looking for. We got to go back and get what people forgot they said and what they forgot they did and what they, you know, like that. We have to go back and get the consistency of the story. That's how you approach hip hop from a scholarly point of view. So look at this, okay? This is us, and this is how we treat our own heritage and legacy. We have simply forgotten who we are and where we have come from. And most of all, and most of us don't even care to know. That was the attitude that we was up against in the 80s, 90s, and new millennium. We was yelling how we should be acting, how we should be talking, how we should be thinking. We put it in the music, we wrote books, we did videos, everything. It was all ignored. Not by the community, but by those who were bent on hip hop, being silly, immature, irresponsible. This is what this is what it was. And you could go back. That's what I'm saying. This is not a criticism. This is not a criticism. This is not a judgment. This is the truth. And if you really want to know why hip hop looks the way it looks today, you got to go back to the 90s and look and see what was important then, when we was planting the seeds then. Who supported the conscious? Who supported hip hop as culture then? And who was saying whatever? And this is what you got to look at. And don't think of it as, oh, these rappers were just saying, like I'm saying, go back and check rappers for what they were saying. I'm not, well, they're included, no doubt. But that's not the whole of what I'm saying. Go back and look at the executive decisions. That's why I say go look at the Source magazine. They interviewed executives. They interviewed artists. They interviewed strippers. They interviewed all types of people that was part of our community. And go back and look and see what was important. You'd be surprised what some of the strippers said. You'd be surprised with what and intelligence and people coming forward with ideas that were all ignored. But the minute you start shucking and jiving and cooning for the TV, that's what was taken. And, you know, and think about this really in terms of this week's controversy. Why the pioneers ain't got no money? Not only were they robbed, but some of us, I know me personally, in that sense, I refuse to sell out. I'd rather starve than sell my soul to the goddamn devil. And that's what a lot of people did to get money. Y'all know the game, and you know, and it's all written down too. Hip hop is recorded in a variety of you can see what everyone did. Videos. You can go back, look at the video. Go back, look at the magazine article. Go back, look at the interview. You know, forget this online stuff. Go back and look at the tangible items that were created during the 90s and the first 10 years of 2000. Go back and take a look at that. It answers all questions. All questions are answered. This is how we do us. And this is the immaturity. We're highlighting 62 and 63. With this is 63. With this kind of attitude toward ourselves, can we truly say that anything has been stolen from us? Or due to our own ignorance, disobedience, and immaturity, have we given away our own birthright and freedom? It's always those chosen few. It's always those chosen few, like Moses, who get revelation from God, but must deliver such revelation to an immature and disobedient people. History sure has a way of repeating itself, especially when it comes to African Americans, and the spiritual reality of hip hop. Highlight that whole thing. 62, And paragraph 63. It seems to be time for us to stand up and reclaim our stolen legacies. I used to criticize the Bible until I realized that my ancestors wrote it. I used to criticize Christianity until I realized it was my ancestors who had established it and had it stolen from them, like hip hop today. I used to despise and protest the injustices of the United States until I realized that I am the United States. I used to criticize the United States Constitution until I realized that it was my great-great-great-great-great-grandparents who actually wrote and lived the principles of the Declaration of Independence, as well as the United States Constitution, long before these documents were in physical existence. This, I believe, is how the thieves of our parents' resources and heritage continue to keep their stolen goods. They simply killed our parents and then taught us that everything that once belonged to us now belongs to them, the thieves. And we accept this injustice because we believe that we are powerless to do anything about it. And that's what the attitude was in the 90s. These dudes do posturing, and I'm this and I'm that, and I got the ice on and all this type of stuff. They basically gave up. They basically gave up and said, there's no use trying to be a strong black man. Why? Because you're going to starve. Look at the pioneers. They all stood up for justice. They all stood up for the culture. They all sacrificed so that their kids can get the millions. They did that. But now look, young people who don't really know, and it's a cycle. You don't know, you mouthing off. You don't know who Rosa Parks is. You don't know who these people are, why you can even sit in the front of the bus. You're just ignorant. Well, we don't pay no attention to that. What we do pay attention to is who's teaching them. And when the lesson is taught, who has the ability to respond to the teaching? Because the teaching has been getting taught. Remember, the gospel's written since 2009. Now we still gonna ask questions? The gospel got the answers right here. And this is 2009, it was published, written in the 90s and the first 10 years of 2000, first 9 years of the new millennium. The gospel of hip hop been here. And we've been preaching it. Loud voices, music, videos, everything. Why still are we asking these same dumb questions then? Because we really don't want to answer. We just want to gossip and get likes and looks and this vanity thing and coveting thy neighbor's ox and ass and wife and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's what the majority of these dudes is doing. And within hip hop, there is a sacred space called the temple of hip hop. And in this sacred space, the truth resides. The truth resides. Reason, logic, evidence resides right here. Here's the evidence, y'all. Here's the evidence. Can you highlight paragraph 67, boys and girls? Let's highlight paragraph 67 because it's the truth. This is why the mission of our temple. This is why the mission of our temple today is so important. Our aim is to return the world's stolen goods and stolen legacies back to their original owners and inventors. And the way we do that is not through war or through force. It is to be achieved through righteousness, spiritual, mental, and cultural maturity. This is what we call righteousness. Spiritual, mental, and cultural maturity. This is how we suppose. This is our formula. That's why you highlighting it. How are we supposed to get our stolen goods back? How are we supposed to honor our mothers and fathers? We're supposed to be honoring our mothers and fathers. You're supposed to be getting their stolen goods back. How are we supposed to be getting our stolen goods back? How are we supposed to restore our legacy, our heritage? How is that all that's supposed to be restored? It ain't going to be restored through war. That's how we lost it. It ain't going to be restored through force. It's not a physical thing. How is it restored? Through righteousness. Through righteousness. What is the righteousness? Spiritual, mental, and cultural maturity. This is the temple of hip-hop, y'all. This is Hip-Hopia, our city-state, filled with people that are spiritually, mentally, and culturally mature. The Ten Commandments is a normal habit for us. We don't have to be told that. That's the regular habit. Now, from there, we move on to higher principles. There is nothing physical to reclaim. It is our minds, our perception that we must restore first. We must retrain ourselves to see through the eye of divinity. This is also why the gospel of hip-hop now exists. We no longer need to rely upon the spiritual heritage of those who raped our mothers and murdered our fathers. Straight up. The gospel of thieves and murderers shall not be the gospel for us. For if our ancestors wrote the Bible and lived its principles long before the Bible was translated into the English language and culture, then with that same blood and with that same spirit, we present this gospel from those of us who are called hip-hop today. If our ancestral parents actually wrote the original Bible and lived its original principles, then by our natural birthright, we are genetically empowered and divinely authorized to write another one and another one and another one. I have realized that it is a bit immature to try and reclaim the physical effects of our soul force when we can just reactivate our soul force today and create even more marvelous gospels, sciences, nations, and legacies than our ancestors ever dreamed. Let the thieves keep their stolen goods, and let us call that charity. I'd like you to underline this part right here. We're going to underline this right now. Our aim is to reactivate the forgotten soul force that inspired our resources and heritage to exist in the first place. Underline that. Our aim is to reactivate the forgotten soul force that inspired our resources and heritage to exist in the first place. What is your heritage? What is your resources, your material, all of these expressions of your soul force? Get rid of the soul force, there's no more heritage. There's no more objects. There's no more creativity. So what are we preserving? Soul force. How do you preserve the soul force? You got to get off that sinking ship, sickness, hatred, ignorance, and poverty, and jump over to health, love, awareness, and wealth. Health, love, awareness, and wealth as principles enliven the soul. Peace, prosperity, contentment with oneself, satisfaction within oneself. This enlarges the soul. Knowledge enlarges the soul. Experience enlarges the soul and the soul's force. We don't need to reclaim any physical item if we are truly the creators of such items. If we are truly the creative gods that we believe we are, then let us establish a whole new world today and with new resources and a whole new legacy. But again, this is the very challenge right here. We really don't believe that our ancestors wrote and lived the Bible. And so we walk around in utter blindness to our true nature's blessings and abilities. Y'all better hear this. This is it. And keep in mind, I'm speaking here, I'm speaking directly to African Americans. Africans, you wrote the Bible. Like, you don't really think about that. You just don't. And reason why, because for some of us, it ain't even our character. All of Africa didn't write the Bible. Only a specific group of people had the character to write the Bible. And then not everybody in Europe accepted it. Only certain people. There's a character, there's a style on you. It's a bloodline in humanity that says, I hear you. You preaching love? You preaching peace? You preaching prosperity? I'm with you. somebody else, you preaching love. You preaching peace. You preaching, man, get out of here with that silly, stupid talk. Look at all us here. We all slaves here. What you talking peace, prosperity? Get out of here with that. You preaching, think you smarter than me. Gee, get out of here. This is what went down, y'all. This is what went down, and this is what continues to go down. This is what was going down in ancient Kush 10,000 years ago. This is what was going down in Egypt, Kemet. This is what was going on in early America. This is what was going on 50 years ago. This is what was going on slave plantations. Harriet Tubman had to deal with this. Frederick Douglass had to deal with this. Black people not realizing who they are. And if you white or if you're non-black in that sense, teach our people this. Teach our people this. You ain't got to be black to teach the truth. Teach the truth. The Bible was written in Africa by Africans. No matter what color you are, speak the truth. Our people don't believe that. Even though the evidence is right there in front of their face. Matter of fact, let's read on. As the original African Heritage Study Bible has revealed, quote, England was very familiar with the black man of Africa during the 17th century. The Muslim had long since given Africa the name El Bilad es Sudan, translated land of the blacks or the black man's land. England knew well that during the early days of the Old Testament, Africa was called the land of Ham. England had entered the slave trade as early as 1552. Queen Elizabeth had money invested in the slave trade and in the colonies of the Americas to where they were going. When King James translators completed the translation in 1611, the black presence had been part of the English and colony scenario. Like black people were walking all around. But the translators called them Negroes instead of Ethiopians, hoping the common mind of the day would not see anything except their color. Even the term Kush or Kush, which is used in the original Hebrew tongue, Kushites, was not employed, was not put in the Bible. The translators knew by calling the slaves Negroes, this would give no bearing to the white Christian world that the people they were enslaving were Christians well before Europe knew about the risen Christ. The term Ethiopia is the term Ethiopia in the English Bible has misled the Christian world for more than 400 years, and perhaps even the name Cush would have changed the attitude of Europeans concerning the chattel slavery of blacks. If slaveholders had known who they were lynching, mutilating, burning, raping, and castrating, it might have made a difference. The original African Heritage Study Bible continues, quote, the King James translators did not forget to use the word Greece in reference to Daniel's prophecy. The same translators saw Sudanese Africans in chains, boarding slave ships, yet they called them Negroes. But when these Sudanese kings sat on the thrones of Egypt, the translators called them Ethiopians. So when you have to refer to Ethiopia's glory, black people sitting on the throne of Ethiopia, they say those black people are Ethiopians. But somehow those same black people that were overthrown and put in chains arrived in Britain and America as Negroes. And that what you thought of Ethiopia is gone. No, they're not Ethiopians, they're Negroes. And niggers with the ER. Okay, that's what's going on here. And we get cut off directly from our divine lineage. You know, African Americans are a divine people. We don't believe it though. This is the craziest thing, is that we're looking at TV and documentaries and Everybody else is God and goddess and this and that. And we're the only people sitting around here with no concept of God, and we are the gods. There's no way around it. I'm actually pointing out, I'm actually quoting a theological scholarship, okay? I'm quoting theological scholarship straight out of the pages of a Bible that's called the African Heritage Study Bible, okay? But this is straight scholarship. I could point this out in several other books as well, how the African changes titles and names as they go from one slave ship to another, and it breaks the history. So you don't really know that you are a direct ascendant of some really divine people. And the evidence is hip hop today. If you were not divine, this would not be going on. This divine culture would not exist. It would not be happening. The universe has to want this to happen for this to happen, and it's happening. We're coming toward the end of this particular read for today. Let me finish this out. I'm on paragraph 78. This is how our names and natures were stolen. It was during our captivity in the United States slave trade that some of our heritage, some of our cultural identities, and some of our traditional names were taken from us. All of us, whites, blacks, natives, Asians, etc., all of us have been robbed of our spiritual inheritance. Do you hear this? And without an awareness of one's own name, which defines one's own nature, freedom and spiritual development are virtually impossible. If you don't know your true name, which is really your true nature. My enlightenment in 1994 was that my true name was hip hop. That was the enlightenment. I am hip hop. I am hip, intelligence, awareness, hopping, moving. I'm this. I am the culture that I am representing. In fact, I and the culture are one. Hip hop is your true name. I discovered the true name. And that's what we have here. The true name of our being is consciousness moving. What more are we than consciousness springing forward? Hip, awareness, intelligence, consciousness. I'm aware, I know what's going on. Hop, springing forward, leaping, moving, even dancing. Hip hop. Highlight this last piece, and this is going to conclude our read right here. Highlight this last piece, paragraph 79. How can you ask people to be loyal to that which oppresses them? As hip hoppers, we must not drink from the cup of hatred and bitterness. We must simply get to work in the reclaiming of our soul force, our natural birthright and divine heritage. And this is why our temple exists. Highlight 79, and what we're going to do is come back next week on 80, which begins lesson 5. You can go ahead and write it now. Lesson 5 is American history. It's a hip-hop style American history. That's 5. Next week, we're going to get into that. But notice how the lesson breaks right here. And lesson 4 is concluded. You're now entering lesson 5 in this total teaching, which now is going to get into American history. And I'm going to also explain why this is part of the temple of hip hop. Why is this part of this particular chapter in and of itself? It goes with the Declaration of Peace. It goes with our work to establish principles within hip hop, to establish standards and codes of conduct for our children, empowering codes of conduct for our children to have some kind of guidance, a framework for when you say, I'm hip hop. Well, what's the framework on that? What wisdom do we have on that? Where should you go? Where should you not be? What are you? What are you not? What's your identity? And how do you arrive at that? Not just telling somebody they're hip hop, but explaining to them, is this you? Because this is what this is, and is this really you? And let the person come to the table saying, yes, this is me, or no, this is not me. Just because my father was hip hop or my mother was hip hop doesn't mean I am. Just because my brother is hip hop doesn't mean I am. But if you don't even know what hip hop is, you can't even answer the question. You may be giving up a heritage, a tradition, and a legacy that you really are, but can't articulate it, don't even know. Nobody ever came and said to you, you know, your true name is hip hop. Your real name might just be hip hop, and there's a bunch of us that think like you and can support you in your development of this understanding. That's what it means to be a family. That's what it means to be a culture. So I'm stopping here on page 662. We're going to continue because this next lesson goes into American history, but from a hip hop perspective. And so we're going to talk that up and get into that. That's it. That's our read for this week. And I hope you guys got something out of it because this is what it's really, really all about. Hip hop is coming of age. Hip hop is indeed maturing. It's coming of age. And also, this is why people are having the questions that they're having and the discussions that we're actually having now. And not just this one conversation that's being had now about the pioneers and, you know, why you got no money kind of thing. That's an interesting conversation to have because it's not just about, oh, the pioneers, you know, why they don't have nothing. The idea really is, how do you treat your pioneers? Do you step on them? Do you disrespect them? Is that what it's about? Really? How are we supposed to build the culture if we're not going to pull our own, or should I say, honor our own mothers and fathers, the mothers and fathers of our culture, the mothers and fathers of our craft, the mothers and fathers, those who did sacrifice. And I was there. Others were there as well, who know not all of us got money like that. Like, you know, we went and got the money because we didn't sell out. It was big for us to remain who we was so that we don't have to sell out. And my mouth is big. Others are not like KRS-ONE. Leo, I'm a Leo. You know, I got an attitude straight up and down, you know. So I'm going to bark and scream and talk and make it clear, you know, that what I'm about and what this culture should be about. I'm going to make that clear and my voice is going to be heard. But others are just don't have that attitude as well. I have a business mind. Others in the culture have a business mind as well. Debbie D, us girl, she got a PhD. Okay. Debbie D is straight up and down scholar and got a job and's working. She bought her house. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that. But everybody's not that. Everybody's not that. You know, everybody's not that. And I say that to say that, not that you have to take up for those who are not like that, but if we are a community and if we are a culture, the defining meaning of community is that you take care of the most vulnerable of the community. You take care of your elders and your children within the community. That's the essence of the community, that we have maintained our ancestors and we're looking forward to the future. The ones who are the now of the culture bear that responsibility, and that responsibility goes on. So now when you become the elder, the children that have seen you take care of your elders will take care of you the same way. But if your children see you dissing your elders, get ready. Get ready. Because when you are in that elder position, your children are damn sure going to diss you. They have no other reference than how you treated others. And this is what that honor thy mother and thy father really means as well. That if you are known for honoring your ancestors, as an ancestor, you're going to be honored as well. And so our community has to understand that, and they're having the conversation. We are having the conversation. So let the conversation happen, let it go down, and that's really it. I don't have anything else. Yeah, that's it. So, Son One, if you have any closing remarks, we can close out. I'm out. My name is KRS-ONE. I'm still kind of young. I don't wear Adidas because my name ain't Run. Shout out to Run. I gotta say, Run, Reverend Run too, by the way. Shout out to and Reverend Debbie D. She's also a preacher.
Okay.
All of this coming to my mind. Yo, I'm out. Peace to the gods.
Peace to the God. There it is. Another excellent lesson this week by our teacher KRS-ONE. KRS-ONE. Look at that. I'm combining running one. Yeah, or just to, I'm gonna be quick. Just to speak about or that whole situation, just real quick. For those who have listened, I'm sure a lot of us have tuned into academics and what he said. It was really just the disrespect of the Dusty part that he said, which is what was really out of pocket. A lot of the other of what he was saying was fine, or it really just it is what it is. I think that most of the pioneers took the dustiness to an effect. Hopefully, we're not getting overly sensitive, because again, or really, a lot of the pioneers really don't care about the fact that they don't have that much money, while others very much so care and are very bitter and feel ripped off. Others have found or still had their existence with God in their life, and everything was still beautiful for them. They still had children. They still had great lives, great times. You can't do hip hop and not have a great time, or at least that kind of really defeats the point. But I would say I believe a lesson is being learned by academics himself, which is you must be respectful. If you do have an issue, you need to know the right way to say it, because again, talking disrespectfully will get you punched in your mouth. And I'm sure, or I'm absolutely positive, and we have no affiliation and nothing to do with it, but I'm sure this dude got mad threats. As big as hip hop is, and for what he said, no, there are plenty of people who have nothing better to do than to terrorize this guy's heart. And as you can see, or I'm sure those of you who have seen, as of yesterday, he cleaned it up a little bit. He cleaned it up. He responded to LL. He cleaned it up a little bit, but he's still talking greaser. He needs to watch the way he's speaking, especially in a sensitive subject such as this, where you're dealing with people who actually do deserve to be rich and have been pushed aside for others to be rich. But he also made a very good point. I think everybody should go and try to find where this is. But he mentioned people being rich and having nothing to do, or being rich off of hip hop and actually giving nothing to the culture of hip hop itself. And he's making an argument of him teaching younger artists about the record business and this, that, and the third. So he's saying that he's trying to pick up where he feels as though pioneers dropped the ball. But there was a big part where he holds the criticism, which we all know to be very true. There's a difference. Everybody, just because it's become a popularized term to say everything's the culture now. Everything's about the culture. Everybody's about the culture. We're doing this for the culture. Everybody's not doing it for the culture, and it has not done it for the culture really whatsoever. And so, some pioneers might want to ease up before their files get pulled, and because that's as much as we talk about it and we know about it, they really don't want all of hip hop to start really saying, okay, let's who really was for the culture and who wasn't, because you might just only find one. And I just said that just because I know it sounded right. But no, but come on, the major one, the one, our teacher, KRS-ONE, keep it funky. Fighting for culture this whole time, no. Most were just rap practitioners, rappers, beat makers. Give back to the culture? I don't think so. Give back to other things, maybe charities and this, that, and the third, but that's not hip hop culture, or specifically hip hop culture. It's a beautiful thing to give back to your community and this, that, and the third, but this is where, unfortunately, it's been enveloped as if all of culture is the culture that everybody's talking about, when no, it's hip hop culture. Hip hop culture rules the planet. Hip hop culture runs the planet. Hip hop culture is what's being exploited. That's what it is. And that's where you could take it away and say, no, it's not. And this goes much into a deeper thing. It's black, but it's hip hop. Or it's not black, but it's hip hop. But it's black, but it's hip hop. But it's not all black. It's not all blacks. So and that's where we get all types of crazy. Shout out to what was read about the Bible being obviously African. Even the land of Ham. Ham means black. For those who may not know, thus the first friend of God, Abraham. It's very clear, or you have to know linguistics really to go through the Bible for real, in order to really find all the references to Africans. And a lot of it is in the names, which is interesting because I was watching a study on names or that there's so much more in the names of the people of the actual Bible than people really know. I think in order to do some research with that, look up Fillmore and his metaphysical Bible. And apparently he goes through a large portion of the names or whatever, but that's just for you to do on your independent study for those who want to know. Yeah, so peace and much blessings to you all this week. Stay focused. Those who want to hop on the UK tour and really get busy, it's an incredible opportunity. You want to do this. Going over there and doing that before is one of the highlights of my life, for sure. So It's something that you need. Well, it's really something that you need, as Teacher had mentioned, to have a real hardcore tour. That you can say that you participate in, not just a portion, but the whole of it. If you could find a way, right? This is what I'm gonna say. Really seek the help of your family and friends to do this. It's a month. It's a month that you have to get away. Get help. Ask people to support you. You're either gonna find out you have all the love and support in your life that you need, or you're gonna find out that you need to find new people. But either way, do that. Do that. And also, when you start making those moves towards doing so, the universe is gonna let you know exactly what's going on, and before you know it, if it's meant for you, you're going to be there. Like for real. So, and you should know that this is how it works. If you're not supposed to be there, you're not going to be there. If you are supposed to be there, you will be there, without a doubt. So, with that, peace and much love. We're gonna go out with a little memory real quick. Let me see. Right, just in case people forgot.
It is official. KRS-ONE, #1.
Knock 'em out the boss, Chris. Out the boss, Chris. Knock 'em out the boss, Chris. Out the boss, Chris. Knock 'em out the boss, Chris. Out the boss, Chris. Knock 'em out the boss, Chris. Out the boss, Chris.
Yeah, I'm spitting you, they nothing fancy. Fake I can't be with this microphone, I'm handy. Radio and video bands me, they can't stand me. I'm the opposite of these hoes, dancing in panties. Truth seeker, I write for people, not a Grammy. True teacher, I teach about ancestors and family. Truth seeker, I bring the evidence, not the fallacy. True leader, bringing solutions to the insanity. The strategy, avoid calamity and tragedy. Do not let technology run off with your humanity. I deal with reality, not lemon or Hannity. This is why most of these rappers are not matching me. It's a catastrophe. They got you looking for a screen, and the screen is showing you seeds. What your culture means: a society of poverty, drug dealers and fiends. These ain't the images to show you real. Rappers like KRS-ONE are nowhere on the scene. They promote rappers that contradict Dr. King's dream. These acts are deliberate, they part of the same scheme. Cop shot the kid, I still hear him scream. This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. Just straight and narrow or you will not last. Slick Rick told y'all, good night, turn it up!
Knock 'em out the boss, Chris. Out the boss, Chris. Knock 'em out the boss, Chris. Out the boss, Chris. Knock 'em out the boss, Chris. Out the boss, Chris. Knock 'em out the boss, Chris.
Real low!
Out the boss.
Knock 'em out the box, Chris. This already. Real low, yeah! Yeah, let this shit rock. A sellout, I am not this. Pull out and pop this. Revolutionary topic, right over the hot shit. Video is for your optics, that's why you watch it. But it can become hypnotic if you cannot stop it. Your mind, you must unlock it from their phony topics. Focus on the truth with proof, use your logic. Words are like character, purpose. You got it or got them? Invisible forces, can you spot them? The blind continues to lead the blind to the bottom, destroying their city like Gomorrah and Sodom. I rock them with truth, cause knowledge reigns supreme. Cop shot the kid, I still hear him scream. This ain't funny, so don't you dare. Just another straight and narrow or you will not last. Slick Rick told y'all, good night.